grammatically. I've written a book, you wouldn't believe it. Hello, welcome to another video. Apologies for the setup difference. I've gotten rid of the green screen because, well, quite frankly, it looked crap. And this is my full-time job. It's my workstation, so I can't do anything about that. There's a blanket up on the wall behind me. The reason for that is there is a big mirror there. Literally, like, I mean, you can see, oh, wrong side. You can see the sort of frame there. It's a pretty big mirror. Hello everyone, welcome to another video. First off, right off the bat, I just want to apologise for the pretty janky looking setup. I got rid of the green screen because, quite frankly, I think it looked terrible. And this is my workstation for my full-time job, so can't do anything about that. And then the blanket on the wall behind me is purely there to block a mirror. There is a pretty big mirror on the wall. You can see the frame there. It's pretty big, and in front of me is a bit of a mess. I just wanted to sort of get rid of that out of view. Anyway, that's not why I made the video. I made the video because I had something come through the post today that I'm very, very excited about. I really wanted to share it with you, and it gave me an idea. Obviously, I've discussed it in a previous video about sort of going through my, my approach to writing. So yeah, I mean, let's just get straight into it. The reason why I've decided to make this video and the reason why I'm very, very excited is because what I've had through the post today is this. This is Relics Dawn, and as you can see by the name, this is my very first novel, and I'm very, very excited about it. It looks phenomenal. The artwork is an absolute incredible job it is the Cloud Digital on 99 Designs. I'll do a video on 99 Designs and sort of getting artwork if that's of interest to you. But yeah, I mean, we're here. I've gone from sort of writing that first line down in Word to actually holding the physical version of my book in my hands, and it is wild. And like I say, this is my first ever novel. And yeah, wow, what a journey. So yeah, I just wanted to sort of make a really quick video and sort of go through really loosely the process of how I got from having the idea of Relics Dawn to, actually having the physical copy in my hands. Obviously, I don't need to explain this to anyone, but I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional writer. I'm completely amateur. I'm from a working class background. And if anything I can say in this video helps you on your journey, then that's fantastic. That's all I want. I just want to be able to help people, get their ideas in their heads down on paper and into people's hands. And I think because there's no better thing in the world to share stories with each other. There's nothing better in the world. And yeah, it's just really exciting. So I will go through very loosely my process to getting that idea into a book and then eventually into people's hands. So step one is get your ideas down onto page. Now, it doesn't have to be page. You've got a fantastic idea in your head, whether it be for a horror book, a sci-fi book, an action book, a thriller, a fantasy, whatever it might be. You've got an idea, you think it's fantastic, and it might very well be. The most important step that you can take to start this journey is really get those ideas down somewhere. It doesn't matter what the format is. It doesn't matter how detailed they are. It could just be a list of bullet points. As long as you're getting those ideas down somewhere, it could be. So I use OneNote purely because I'm familiar with it. I've used it plenty of times in the past. Obviously not for writing books, but for other different things. I am a big fan of D&D, as you can see from the books there. The keen-eyed of you will have spotted them. I use OneNote to track if I'm playing as a character within a campaign. I'm using OneNote to track my character's progression and sort of writing down character beats so I don't forget things, and writing down NPC details. If I'm a DM, I'm basically doing everything in there. This is the whole campaign plan. I'm writing down notes for different characters, all sorts of different things. So I'm very familiar with OneNote, but what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be digital. You could take a handful of post-it notes and slap them all over a wall. As long as you're getting the ideas down somewhere, that's the most important step to take first. And then when you're reviewing your notes as well, so get your ideas down, go for a walk, spend some time with family, watch some TV. The best inspiration you could possibly hope to get for fiction is the real world. It's other media, it's the real world, real experiences with people. Another thing, just as like a little added sort of tidbit in here as well. The best way to get good dialogue in your book, at least from my experience, is really pay attention to how you interact with people. And if you're sat in public, just listen to how people have a conversation. That's real dialogue happening every single day, and everyone, you'll notice people have different slight nuances in the way that they communicate with each other, and really understanding that, and you don't have to fully understand it, as long as you sort of understand the beats that people hit in the conversations. That will help you get good convincing dialogue into your book. Now, I don't know whether my dialogue is very good. I would say dialogue's probably my weakest point. But yeah, just wanted to throw that little tidbit in there as well. But yeah, point number one: get your ideas down somewhere, go and experience the world, family, whatever it might be. Come back, and then you can review those notes, and you can say, okay, this one's pretty good. I like this one. I will leave, I'll leave that there. This one, however, not as good. Don't delete it. Don't get rid of it. Don't delete it. Don't burn the post-it note out of anger or whatever you might do. Keep that note and just move it to the side, because, in my opinion, deleting an idea, that obviously whatever it might be, it's gone forever. You'll probably forget about it, and that sort of potentially robs you of something really cool that you can bring into the story later on. So just move it to the side, and then the stuff that you like, you can sort of expand from them, and they'll grow arms and legs and go in all sorts of different directions. So yeah, get your ideas down. That is step number one. So step number two, this is pretty important, and step number one and step number two, you could sort of shift like that. But step number two is basically figure out what kind of writer you are. So what I mean by that is, are you a plotter or are you a pantser? Those are the generic terms that, let's say generic. Those are the general terms that people use. There are people who sort of sit in the middle, and actually, having written Relics Dawn and started a new project, I have discovered that I'm actually maybe more of a combination of the two than I first thought. So yeah, so to define what they are, you might be sitting there thinking, listen, I don't know what a pantser is, for example. So a plotter is someone who will literally plot out the entire narrative or most of the narrative, or a really good chunk of the narrative. So maybe, for example, they know where the book starts, they know what plot A is, and then plot point B, plot point C, plot point D. Then they'll that'll give them a bit of a backbone, a bit of a spine to build the story from. Some people do it excruciatingly detailed, and some people do it just a sort of general format and sort of skeleton, and then build from there. And then there are pantsers, which I would say I sit more in, and that is basically someone who, me personally, I spent a lot of my energy in creative energy on world building. I absolutely love world building and creating characters. And then when it came to actually sort of finishing that, which I had to pull myself away from, because I could have world built forever. But when it came to actually starting writing the narrative and the story, the novel itself, I wanted to just get in and just go. I didn't want to sit there and have to plan anything out. I'd already done that. The planning, it came when I was coming up with the military structure, when I was coming up with the different characters, when I was coming up with the sort of hierarchy and the society of the aliens, for example. When it came to the narrative, let's just find out. I've got X character, and the first thing that he needs to do is X. How are we going to get there? Once he's gotten there, how is he going to react to it? So on and so forth, and just sort of build on that way. Now, an extra little side note as well. Writer's block is a real thing. I very naively entered writing this, and I got like 3/4 of the way through the book, and I thought, nah, writer's block. I feel like, obviously people talk about it a lot, so it must be a real thing, but it can't be that bad. I mean, I haven't experienced it. I got to the last chapter of this book, or the last two chapters of this book, and when it came to finishing the story, I was lost. Writer's block hit me hard. I was stuck for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Okay, it wasn't that long, but it was a long time for me anyway. I think it was about, to be honest, I think it was about 3 or 4 weeks where I just couldn't. I just stared at the Word document. I stared at what I'd written previously, and I just could not. No ideas would come to me, and I just stared at the blank space, the little, I don't know what it's called, the little cursor thing blinking, ominously, sort of taunting me to write something down, but nothing was coming. So writer's block is a real thing. The way that I sort of got around it was I basically revisited the whole book. I think by that point I'd had 70, almost 80,000 words. I think it was close to 80,000 words. I basically read the whole thing again, and revisited chapter. Literally, I revisited pretty much every single chapter in the book, changed a few things around, and by doing that, it sort of I had a better understanding of the story and how I'd gotten to where I was within the story and how the characters had gotten to where they were, and that helped me sort of see the pathway forward and in the finishing of the book. So yeah, writer's block is a real thing. So whether you're a pantser or a plotter, know that writer's block could come for you at any point. So make sure it's a bit of a roundabout way of saying it, but make sure that you've picked the right style for you, because I think that's the best way to avoid that writer's block. And obviously, the number of people that finish their book when they start writing it is very small, and I think that writer's block and burnout play an absolutely huge part in that. And speaking of burnout, make sure you take breaks. You have to take breaks. I know you're gonna feel on top of the world when you start. You can have a great idea. You've got them down. You've started sort of crafting the narrative, or you've started chapter one. You're on a high. Take a break, because you will at some point you'll overdo it. You'll spend hours and hours and hours every other day on it, and eventually you'll be like, oh, you'll feel like you have to force yourself. And if you feel like that, don't do it. Just take a break. There's no rush. There's no rush in this at all. So I realise I waffled an awful lot in that second point, so I'll be, as concise as I can be in this third point. But now you've identified whether you're a pantser, a plotter, or somewhere in the middle. Now it's time to put pen to paper, or get your sort of words down in Word, and start writing this book. The best advice I can give you, and what really worked for me, and again, this might not work for you. I guess it's just try it and see, and sort of figure out what works for you. But what worked for me, as I got to the end of a chapter, I went into my notes, so OneNote, as I mentioned, and I wrote down a summary. And I basically summarized what happened in that chapter. What were the key bullet points? What were the key sort of progression areas for the character and the different characters in that chapter? And then the next point underneath, I always says, what do we want out of the next chapter? What does the character need to achieve now, moving forward? What have they achieved? What do they need to achieve going forward? That really helped me, and I actually only started doing that after about chapter 8 or 9. I'd got through and I'd realised, obviously, I work full time. I can't spend every single day on this, and I think I'd taken a 3 or 4 day break, come back to it, and I was just like, "Ooh, what have I done? Where were we?" And having these summaries, being available in OneNote was a game changer. I could go in, I could have a weekend off, I could have a week off, 2 weeks off, whatever it might be. I can go into OneNote and I can see exactly the summary, what's been achieved, and what needs to be achieved in the next chapter. And not only that, but I can go back, review the chapters that I've done, see the summary, and say, okay, what was achieved in chapter 3? And then under that chapter 3 note, you'd say, what needs to be achieved in chapter 4, and then I can go to chapter 4 and I can see whether I actually achieved that or not. Now, obviously, you don't have to stick to it. This is just a guideline. It worked really well for me. There were a couple times where what I'd put down as the sort of next achievement for the next chapter, I sort of ignored because it didn't really make sense for the story. And when I got to the end of the book and when I got stuck, I went back and I ignored a fair few of them, to be fair, because it didn't really help the flow of the story and the narrative. So, but while I was in the process of writing the book, it was absolutely incredible in helping me sort of stay on track and been able to dive straight back in and get words down. So yeah, that would be my advice. But again, whatever works for you. You've got a draft one. Then the next step for you is to celebrate. You have completed your first draft. That is an absolutely amazing achievement, and you need to take a second to really pat yourself on the back and look at it and say, I did that. You did that. That is a first draft of a story that you started out with an idea in your head, and now it has manifested itself into a complete full draft. That is fantastic. So celebrate. So that's enough celebrating. The next step, this is step number 5, I believe. The next step is you have a first draft. Now it's time to edit, and it's time to go through the various rounds of editing. Now, different people will tell you that the number of edits that you need to go through, the number of drafts that you need to go to. So this is draft number 6, I believe. Now there's a couple of reasons for that. I got an editor, so this is an important bit actually. I would definitely recommend getting an editor. Now you can get fairly cheap editors on Fiverr. You can get more expensive editors. You can get professional editors. There is a cost associated with all of these, so it depends on your budget. My budget wasn't that high, so I ended up going through an editor on Fiverr. And full disclosure, absolutely fantastic job. I will link them below. Yeah, they did an absolutely amazing job. They went through the manuscript, sort of line by line, and made edits, and then gave me a report on the narrative structure, which gave me sort of points to change or alter slightly on the narrative, which helped me massively, and really valid points as well. Obviously, the story makes sense in my head because it's my story. I came up with it, but them being a sort of third party outsider reading the book for the first time, the points that they raised were 100% valid, and it was really, really good. So I could not have sort of asked for a better first experience with an editor. But I would definitely say if you can afford it, definitely get an editor, but make sure that you're editing the book yourself as well. So the first few edits, including the paid editor, that sort of took me through, and that was more structural, sort of grammatically. I've written a book, you wouldn't believe it. Yeah, grammar mistakes, spelling mistakes, sort of sentence structures, things like that. And then the last few were, this is probably the wrong order. I would actually flip, if I was, going into my next project, I would actually flip this on its head. I would do the narrative edits first and then finish off with the rest of the edits. But that's a learning that I've made, and hopefully I can pass on to you so you don't have to make that mistake. I wouldn't say it's a mistake. I would just say it's probably better and more logical to do the narrative stuff first. But yeah, edit, create draft upon draft upon draft, and the amount of drafts that you are comfortable with. Like I say, I'm on draft 6, and that's this book, and I think it's in a pretty good place. I could probably do another one. I just don't think that I'd get a lot of sort of value out of it with the effort that it requires. So yeah, make sure that you edit your book. Okay, so you have an edited manuscript. Now's the time to celebrate once more. You have a finished book. It's ready to go. Now you need cover art. There are loads of different ways you can go about getting cover art. You can contact graphical designers themselves or cover artists themselves on various different websites like Fiverr, for example. I used 99 Designs, which is a service by Vista, and it was fantastic. I genuinely couldn't have I've asked for better. It's slightly more expensive. Well, you can change the budget, but it's a slightly more expensive route. But the quality and the various different designs that I got from it were fantastic. I will, if of interest, I will make a video on 99 Designs and sort of my process and sort of how I experienced that. But it was really good. But yeah, you need to get yourself a cover, and then, so this is kind of I'll combine 2 steps in one here. Get yourself your cover art, make sure that's all good to go, and then formatting. Now, formatting was an absolute nightmare for me. So the reason why I'm combining these two is because you need to figure out how big you want your book. So for example, this is 5 by 8, 5 inches by 8 inches, which is, I think, is like the standard size for Amazon. And obviously that dictates, so number of pages and then the size of the book dictates the art cover size, which is really important to make sure that the spine of the book is aligned properly and that there's no issues in printing. And then formatting the actual interior of the book was an absolute nightmare for me, like a serious nightmare. I spent I think it was about 6 hours, like in total, like 6 hours on one day, start to finish, without stopping, trying to sort some issues out that I had with Word. I wanted to tear what's left of my hair out. Yeah, it's a nightmare. So if I can give you another piece of advice, KDP actually give you templates that you can download. I will leave a link in the description below to make that portion of your life easier. I would basically pick the template that you want ahead of time and then start writing your book in that, to save yourself a bit of a headache. The margins are all preset and the page sizes are all preset. But yeah, I mean, it's not the end of the world. You can finish the book and format it later. But just prepare yourself for a potential nightmare and a headache. But yeah, that's it. Once you've got your book cover and once the book is formatted, you can get it onto any platform of your choosing. I chose Amazon KDP. You will need to format it if you decide to do Kindle as well, so you'll need to format it slightly differently there. Again, that was a headache. It wasn't as bad as when I was trying to format it for a physical copy. But my god, it was a headache. But hey, we got there in the end, and I will make in-depth videos in any of those topics and anything I've talked about in this video so far. Whatever you want to hear or whatever you want to know a bit more in depth, just let me know, and I'll go ahead and make a video about it. I really want to help you. I've made mistakes, and I've learnt on this journey, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And if I can help make this journey smoother for any of you, then that's amazing. That's all I want. So yeah, I guess that's really it. You've got a book. Incredible. Don't forget to celebrate. Celebrate. I know I've mentioned obviously celebrate after you've got your first manuscript, but celebrate the whole journey. The whole journey is fantastic. If it's something you're truly passionate about, it's just a phenomenal journey. Like, having this in my hands is more satisfying than you can possibly imagine. If you've got a book and if you've been through this journey, you understand. If you are yet to take this journey, just know that the ends definitely justify the means. The headaches, the issues that you'll run into along the process, it is all worth it. This is absolutely fantastic. When this came in the post today, I was like a child on Christmas. So all I can say is that it's worth it. And yeah, it's just something that I'm not going to stop doing. I'm going to continue to write books, and hopefully I can sort of improve my process, and document my progress along this journey that will never end, hopefully, on YouTube for you guys to enjoy and learn from. That's all from me though today. I realise this video is probably a little bit long. I only actually wanted it to be a pretty short video, but I was very excited about having this in. This will be live or ready to go and purchase very, very soon. I'm going to give it one last check through, and then hopefully I can click publish on Amazon. I will let you know when this is good to go. Obviously, if you want to stay in sort of step to date, you can follow me on Instagram at author JJ Benham. I'll link it below, and obviously I'll post an update here as well. I would massively appreciate any support you could possibly give, but obviously if you don't, then that's absolutely fine. You watching this video is support enough. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like and a comment. Let me know what videos you want to see in the future. The next video on the channel will be a May rundown for what books are coming out this month. But no, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.